Obviously, we're here to discuss the bill. Welcome to my firm, and obviously feel free to stop in anytime if you want to just kind of enjoy yourself, have questions about claims or anything. We have an open door policy for people to come in. I want to start with a very simple premise of myths and facts. Just really what are they saying and what's the actual truth. So we'll start with a simple myth, which is that insurance companies are taking massive losses. So you've heard Senator Boyd say insurance companies are taking massive losses. So I took the liberty to look at Universal's investor relations. And this is from October 27, 2020. So this is just a few months ago. It's actually pretty insightful. So keep in mind, the carriers are telling you we're bleeding money. We're losing money. Well, let's see what it looks like. What are they telling their investors? Right? They're telling their investors underwriting is up $842 million. Services are up. Policies that they're writing consistently increasing. This comes from Universal. This is not Winston Tate saying this. This is Universal's investment guide, and this is what they're telling their investors. Their investments are up, their services are up, underwriting is up. So hopefully, at least with Universal, it's very clear to see insurance companies taking massive losses is wholly incorrect. And this is coming from Universal. In fact, they're up 35% over the third quarter of 2020. They made an additional $311 million in one quarter. That doesn't look like insurance. That doesn't look like what Senator Boyd said. Insurance companies are taking massive losses. I want to see, do we see any losses? This is 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14. Do you see any losses across the board? Did I make this up? This comes from Universal Investor Relations. So let's separate myths from facts. Unquestionably, at least with one of the largest insurers in the state, unquestionably they're making money. $311 million increase in the third quarter of 2020. Take a look, go to Universal, take a look at their investor report. Here's a fascinating myth about it, is that this bill will lower insurance premiums, right? We've heard this. Well, there are 19 pages of proposed legislation between both bills. There is not one word, not one sentence, not one section that refers to lowering premiums. This is crazy. So if the legislation was designed to lower premiums, it should have simply said in the legislation, we're lowering premiums. If you want to decrease the speed limit from 65 to 55, you write a law that says the speed limit is 55. Nowhere in the 19 pages of proposed legislation is there one thing that says premiums will come down. In fact, it's just the opposite. Year after year, carriers have consistently petitioned to raise homeowner premiums. Since 2016, the Office of Insurance Regulation has increasingly approved carriers' abilities to raise rates. This is the facts. These are facts. This is nowhere in the bill does it say anywhere premiums will be lowered. But what do we know? Increase rates. So you have this really interesting situation. It's kind of a chaotic circle. Carriers raising rates and then proposing laws saying, hey, those rates are too high. All right? This is exactly what we have here. We saw it in the AOB regulation. There's actually a Latin phrase for this, and it's you create a problem and you encourage a reaction. Something must be done, they say, and then you offer the solution. So there's chaos created, and then they offer a way to restore order. This is literally what's happening. They're raising rates and saying, hey, there's a problem with raising rates. And who loses out? Homeowner loses out. And that's really what our focus is. All of us are here because of homeowners. Here's another myth. The bill will benefit homeowners. Explain it. Ask someone. The next time they say this is going to benefit a homeowner, say, where in the bill? I have 19 pages. I've looked at the proposed legislation. Where does it say benefits will be increased? In fact, it's a decrease in coverage. It's a decrease in the ability to challenge carriers. And there's not a single section that directly helps homeowners. So if you're saying you want to help homeowners, put it in the bill, is what I'm saying. Put it in the bill. We've kind of seen this pattern before. I'm not sure if many of you are around for assignment of benefit reform. We call this the boy who cried wolf. AOB is creating chaos. AOB is creating chaos. We need reform. We need reform. And what they get? They got reform. But what happened, right? Lawmakers asked for AOB reform. They got a comprehensive bill. And surprise, surprise, rates have continued to go up. They've continued to apply for rate increases. OIR has consistently approved rate increases. So we've seen this pattern before, right? If anyone here, raise your hand if you've seen the assignment of benefits reform or regulation or heard about it. And that was supposed to lower rates. That was the pitch. And here we are again. It's almost like deja vu. And who's the loser in all of these situations? It's the homeowner. So you create chaos, you raise rates and say, hey, no, we need to lower rates. You cry wolf, and you have a winner and a clear loser, right? This has been borne out. Now we know. This is unquestionable. So I'm not only here to present problems, let's present some solutions, right? What are some solutions? Well, if you say you want to lower premiums and increase benefits, write a bill that literally says we're going to lower premiums and increase benefits. This is the most sensible, simple solution. That's a good idea. That hits the mark. That'll have sections that lower premiums. What's another solution? Keep calm and just do nothing. I'm going to give you guys some top secret information. Top secret. ACV policies exist, right? So here's another solution that I've heard no one propose. I know you guys, everyone here works with different law firms. They talk to different people. I've never heard this proposed. I'm going to give you a simple solution to this entire bill right here today. You guys are the first people to hear this. Keep in mind, ACV policies exist. So why don't we educate the homeowners on the difference between an ACV and RCV policy, tell them what they're going to get for their premium, and let the homeowner decide, right? We don't need another law to say roofs are ACV. We already have the ability to sell ACV policies. I don't believe I've ever heard anyone propose this solution. I came up with myself. And think about it. Educate the homeowner, say this is what an RCV policy is, this is what an ACV policy is. Tell them this is how much you're going to pay. You're going to pay $1,200 for an RCV policy and $1,050 for an ACV policy. And this is what you're going to get. And let the homeowner decide. Wouldn't that be a simple solution to end this entire thing? And no one's heard that here before today. So I've had a lot of pictures, and I want to end with just a few words. The need for fee and cost reimbursement in the realm of insurance litigation is deeply rooted in public policy. Namely, the legislature recognized that it was essential to level the playing field between the economically advantaged and sophisticated insurance companies and the individual citizen. Most assuredly, the average policyholder has neither the finances nor the expertise to single-handedly take on an insurance carrier. Without the funds necessary to compete with an insurance carrier, often a concerned policyholder's only means to take protective action is to hire that expertise in the form of legal counsel. For this reason, the legislation recognized that an insured is not made whole from an insurer simply grants the previously denied benefits without fees. The reality is that once the benefits have been denied and the plaintiff retains counsel to dispute that denial, additional costs that require relief have been incurred. 627428 takes these additional costs into consideration and levels the scales of justice for policyholders by providing that insurers pay the attorney fees resulting from incorrectly denied benefits. So we did a bunch of pictures. Any guess onto where this came from, these words? These words came directly from the Florida Supreme Court in 2016. This is the Florida Supreme Court wrote these words in Johnson versus Omega. They said since 1893, we've recognized the need to level the playing field. And this is their opinion on SB-76 and HB 305. I appreciate you guys taking a little bit of time to listen to my presentation. Obviously, I'm done. I want to listen. I want to take notes. I want you to be comfortable here. But also, hopefully, you understand there's some serious issues with this bill. And hopefully, I've addressed some of those issues and some potential solutions.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys again for your time.
All right, everyone. So what I want to do is I want to turn it into a round table right now. But the first thing I want to do is direct you right now to myclaimscare/SB-76, okay? As we leave here today, this is a great place to send homeowners or roofing contractors if you want to learn more about this bill. The idea will be to sign up so that you can receive a monthly newsletter. And as things become closer, those newsletters might have more information about what is going on and how this bill is going to develop within the legislature after the March 2nd, after it starts, okay? So with that in mind, what I'd like to do is I want to talk to some of the roofing contractors and then some of the insurance here in the room today to talk about what ACV policies and what this bill could mean to both homeowners and roofing contractors across the state. Before I get started, there are three main parts of this bill to keep in mind, okay, when it comes to how homeowners are going to receive coverage. Number one, what this bill does is it looks to limit coverage for roofs after 10 years. So a roof that is over 10 years old, that depreciation after that time on a sliding scale would not be covered by the insurance company. Therefore, following a hurricane or a natural disaster of some kind, that depreciation may have to be covered by the homeowner. The second thing that this bill does is it looks to limit attorney fees for individuals who want to file litigation against their insurance carrier. Thus, it makes their options a lot less if they have a denied claim and they need to move forward with it. And the third thing the bill does is it limits the time that you're going to have to file a claim. After a hurricane currently right now, it's 36 months to file a claim. This bill would move it to 24 months to file that for the insurance carrier. So three things that the bill is looking to do there. With that in mind, what I want to do is I want to first turn it over to Aggie, if that's okay. And we're going to ask just some questions from the Hippo roofing side. You guys work on the East Coast. I'd like you to talk a little bit about if a hurricane was to come through and you had an increased number of individuals carrying these ACV policies, what it might mean to homeowners if that hurricane was to come through and you had to go out there to fix the roof. Can you allude to that just a little bit?
So what's most important is when we come up to an appointment, we start educating the customer. Each customer that comes in, especially after disaster, is an immediate need. Pella will chime in with me as well on this question. What's most important is they don't know what to expect, how much to pay, what their options are. Originally, their policy when they first signed on, it's a blur. They don't have no idea what their deductible is. So educating them on their options first is what's important. We have something like a public notice available to them that we educate on. And especially in the Barrier Island, insurance rates are a little higher because we're on a high wind velocity area. And Pella, what have you, up from the last hurricane, saw that someone's new coming into the industry?
Certainly. Well, Patrick, alluding back to your question, how ACV would affect them versus where I see the majority is RCV now, it would affect them greatly because majority of those roofs are 10, 12 years old. So the cash value there would be reduced because of depreciation. So it's going to leave them with a lot of out-of-pocket. And where you have a typical normal deductible on maybe a water loss and hot water heater, AC issue, mold issue, that's typically somewhere between a $500 and a $1,000 loss. And you're dealing on the other side of the all other perils or versus your hurricane deductible, which is now 2% to 5% of the value of the home. This is a huge deductible for them to chunk out. So you're looking $1,000 versus $3,000, $8,000. I had one roof that was $80,000. That's the deductible. So now they're going to have an ACV policy. There's more out of pocket for them. Where that type of a homeowner with that house, 1.6 on the Barrier Island, is not uncommon. They're looking at replacement of $200,000 out of pocket. It leaves this homeowner basically pulling maybe a secondary mortgage, a home improvement loan when the community's already crashed. Our community's down for 2 weeks, so where do you get funding? How do you mitigate your house? As Aggie said, it's a blur. Everybody's in disaster. You don't know. I'm probably going to be putting a shrink wrap system for $75,000 on my roof just to hold myself over to find out where my $120-something thousand more comes. it's a catastrophe, and their lives are disrupted beyond belief. So it's going to affect them greatly. I mean, when I was in the Midwest, ACV policies were quite typical because you would have an occasional straight line windstorm. Mm-hmm. Average house there is maybe 20 squares, so it's affordable. They could put on a $7,000-8,000 roof. Here in Florida, already everything is raised, and as Aggie said, you're in a high wind velocity zone. So just to build an average roof in Palm Bay versus on the barrier island, we have many more components that we have to pass as far as codes and local ordinances go. So that's much more that homeowner has to put out of pocket. So this is already starting at a $20,000-50,000 roof, and now they're going to have a depreciating value tacked on top of that. It's crazy.
So, Jimmy, one of the things that the proponents of this law and the architects of it say is that it's fighting fraud. And that the reason that insurance premiums continue to go up is because roofing contractors are committing fraud out there. They're putting in fraudulent claims. Insurance companies are having to fight them. You work with RRCA, and you manage a great team over on the East Coast. What does RRCA do to manage against fraud? Do you guys accept it? What is it like in your company when it comes to fraudulent claims? Can you speak to that?
Well, Patrick, when it comes to fraudulent claims, if we see that any of our representatives that go out into the field and they're meeting with homeowners and things like that, if they're trying to commit any sort of fraud, it's immediate termination. We do not stand for that in our company. The reason for that being is that there's a lot of contractors out there that tend to do a lot of fraud. They get up on a roof, they see just a little bit of damage, it's not enough to really warrant a claim, and then they file the claim anyway. They get the homeowner on AOB. When the insurance company rightfully comes out and declines that claim, now they go and try to do a lawsuit. We don't operate in that way. We train our guys when they go out onto a property, they inspect the roof the right way. If there is enough damage that warrants that claim, that's when they advise the homeowner to file a claim and assist them through the process.
Now, do you see roofing contractors out there in Central Florida who do file this? Because you've got to compete against that. So let's just say you have to compete against somebody who's going out there and they're talking about filing a claim that's not the right way to do it. Do you guys combat that? Do you just say, oh, we're going to go ahead and do it anyway? Or how do you work against these people that are doing things the wrong way?
Are you talking about the homeowners?
Yeah, how do you work with homeowners that have been told things, I don't know, that aren't true? Because, you have some gym in a truck stuff out there that come through and they make a bunch of promises to a homeowner that they're going to push a claim through, possibly when the claim doesn't need to be put through. So is that something that you guys educate the homeowners with? How do you handle that from a sales perspective?
The way that we handle that at RRCA is when we have a homeowner that has been told one thing by, for example, a truck in a truck that says, oh, you got enough damage on the roof, you might as well go ahead and file a claim. If we go up to a homeowner and we see that they tell us that same story, we actually go ahead and do that roof inspection ourselves. And we go throughout the whole roof. We see if there's enough damage on multiple slopes, any collateral. If there's nothing there, I'm going to educate that homeowner, and so are the reps that work with us, that they should not file a claim because there's not enough damage up there, and that they should wait for another opportunity when a storm actually does occur.
Absolutely. So I want to turn the tables a little bit from the insurance perspective, okay? We have roofing contractors out there. Obviously, they're filing claims for roof damage that's going on. Can you give us a little bit of insight into what the insurance companies see? Because sometimes these claims are coming through, and from a roofing contractor, we're wondering why they might be denied. We're questioning should they be denied, and that's leading us to look at this and go, okay, this bill is only looking out for big insurance. Is there another side of that scenario though?
What happens a lot of times with dealing with insurance carriers, and I have over 150 different carriers that I work with, so I hear lots of things, I get lots of emails. A lot of times what's happening with some of the carriers in regards to the roof, what's happening is there are people that are doing, I call them the door knockers, where they just drive by, oh, we've got this. I've had my clients that have come to me, I always tell them, if there's ever something that's going on and you think there's an issue, contact me first. Because I want to make sure that we're vetting them to the right people who are actually going to look out for their best interest, because a lot of times they'll be like, yeah, we need to place the claim now, we need to get it moving. So what's happening is there's all these claims that keep getting put in, and then immediately they're denied. What we then on the insurance agency, if we go and they've done that, then we're either, there's a lot of people, even from what's happened with COVID, there's been a ton of people that have ended up putting in claims, and what's happening is there's not damage. There isn't things that are accounted. It's not going to hit their deductible, which then automatically, if it ends up being denied on that part, then they get a surcharge that they're being paid out. Then we have it where they're angry at the roofing company, they're angry at the insurance agency, and it's from people not being educated. And so the big part is having this communication of like, hey, let's first look at the problem, see if there really is a problem, and let's have the conversation for our next steps. When you do that and you go to the insurance carrier and you show you've done your due diligence, you are going to get an approved claim versus a denied one. And then the ones that have, maybe in a certain area where, again, you've had the drive-by companies, then a lot of times if you show them the proof and you have to then go and amend it, and then show that it's actually had the due diligence, that they've taken the time to really look at what's having it, have the documentation showing why it is that, they'll often then amend it for an approved claim. But a lot of times people don't realize that, and then they're like, oh, well, it was denied because, well, if you have like 30 to 50 homes that all came into one area and it ends up being that only 3 are on there, that's going to be an issue. So they're trying to look out for their bottom dollar, and what happens is when all of these claims keep happening, that's when we have zip code closures, which then we're being stopped because all these claims are happening. People are getting the rate increases. They're then wanting to jump ship from the carrier because they're upset about the surcharge. It's like a domino effect that is damaging for everybody, and it affects everyone in the group. You know what I mean?
See, I think what some of the group might be concerned about, when the roofing contractors that we work with at My Claims Care, from an insurance perspective with this law, I would be concerned that the broker that's going out there to talk about, hey, listen, this is going to be your coverage that you need for the home. I would be concerned that they would not advise the homeowner correctly on what this policy, according to SB-76, would entail. And that when that hurricane rolls around and they've got that roof blown off, they get State Farm out there and they go, great, your roof needs to be replaced, but we're not going to give you the 20 grand for it. We're going to give you the 14,000 for it. My concern is that they're not going to be educated on what the proper policy is, and that these policies are going to be pushed forward because they're cheaper and that people are going to take them, but then afterwards, once the hurricane comes through, they're going to be taken advantage of, per se, because they're not going to have that 7,000 in the bank to be able to handle that depreciation. So I'm really concerned that they're not going to advise correctly. Janie.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Todd with Janney Roofing, and I have a property casualty background up in New York before coming here, so I can speak from both sides. But I think the challenge that you mentioned already is education. It's not just so much education for the homeowner, it's education by the agency. There are insurance agents that are not specifically training their clients on something that has never been mentioned yet today, but is critical. It's called law and ordinance, or ordinance and law. Now the challenge is this: if we have contractors that are competitors of ours that only do insurance work, they must do 7 AOBs a week to keep their job, so they're just writing paper hoping that the office can turn it into a claim.
That's a good point.
The challenge about that is law and ordinance, of course. One of those law and ordinance coverages when it comes to damage is the 25% rule that most of us are looking for to see if it meets that standard. But my thing that I do with my clients, especially with training our sales team, is find out from the homeowner first if they have law and ordinance. If they don't have that provision, shame on the agent for not making sure that they have that in their policy to cover that loss, should that arise, because if not, then the whole roof needs to be bad. So that's a problem. Number two, every one of our insurance policies that we write with our homeowners and that we have as homeowners ourselves is a legal binding contract between us and our insurance carrier. When a lot of these organizations are going to litigation on step one, they are subverting the process. They are breaking the contract that we as homeowners have written with our carriers. And it's a 4-step process. The first time is the inspection. If they don't like that result, they ask for a second opinion from the same carrier. If they don't like that, then they go through mediation, which is the proper way through Tallahassee. And then the 4th step is only through legal, whether you go through attorney or through a public adjuster. That's the challenge. People are circumventing that process, which is why people, and especially probably in government, are getting a bad taste in their mouth for what should be happening, because people are thinking about themselves in their pocket more than taking care of the homeowner, the insurance carrier, and the process.
So can you explain a little bit about what Janney Roofing does to train your guys? Because it's obvious you have a successful, recipe that you guys have put together. So I'm assuming that I've been a part of big box, roofing. And with big box roofing, what they aim to do is, like you said, let's push numbers. Let's push for 8 to 10 roofs a week. If you don't hit it, then you're out the door. That causes people, as you said, to write paper.
Right.
What is different about the way that Janney Roofing does it? Because that's, in my opinion, what Tallahassee needs to see. That people like Hippo and RCA, Janney, are doing things differently.
It is about education and training. You know, the core principles of our company is integrity, quality, character, of course, all those different things, foundational principles in the organization that have to be instilled. But it is a culture. It definitely comes to leadership when you have an organization that understands specifically what you're trying to accomplish. You know, our mantra at our company is we're trying to literally change the world one roof at a time. We're definitely doing more outside than we are inside. But the culture of the people we're bringing into our organization, we're not looking for anyone just looking for a job. There are a lot of people out there that are doing fraudulent stuff. They have no business in our company. We won't even entertain talking to them. But explaining to them the process, educating them up front, and of course, most of them are homeowners. Put yourself in the shoes, not so much in the AOB language, okay? Put yourself in the shoes as a homeowner. How would you like to be treated? And that's how we train our sales team, as if it was happening to you in that language. And I think that's the biggest thing, is we're not trying to sell. We want to educate the homeowner what their options are and let them work it out. We rarely do an AOB. Only time may be for someone out of state or someone that may be incapacitated, working with power of attorney, etc. But typically it's either AOB one side, let the homeowner handle their own claim on the flip side, but we'd like to work in the middle and partner with them and find out what the direction they want to go. And that's the direction we found to be successful for us at James Roofing.
So I think what I hear is that it comes down to education and communication as well with the insurance companies that we have out there. I think right now as an industry where we may have failed a little bit, and when it comes to roofing and insurance, is I think it kind of becomes a bad guy, good guy thing. That, we're the roofing, we're looking out for the homeowner, we want to get your claim approved, and the bad guys over here are not approving your claim. So I think maybe better communication between the insurance companies and the good roofing contractors in an area would go a long ways. And so Aggie, I'm going to turn it over to you with maybe the Hippo roofing side.
Sure.
I think you guys made a good point when it comes to education. Can you talk about, if somebody's in Tallahassee and they're thinking every roofing contractor is out there to take advantage of the system, what is different about Hippo Roofing and how you guys train your people, what you go out there and do every day? Because I think that's very important to see that there are good roofing contractors out there doing things the right way.
Well, from the beginning, actually, Hippo has been a big giant of retail sales. So in the past, what we've done the Hippo way is we maintain on, besides education, actually educating on the best option, which is metal. So with that being said, we are the biggest metal distributor or installer in Brevard County. And just over the years, we've even developed our own trademark metal same price as shingle. So with that coming forward, we want a permanent product that can be forever, 50 years. Why have the depreciation of a shingle product? We know that they're temporary, but at the end of the day, it's building value, building something that will last a lifetime. We have insurance for a reason. In case there's a hailstorm that might compromise the metal, that will be replaced. But that is the Hippo difference, and that's what we're going to be moving forward with.
Go ahead.
Heather?
Oh, thank you. Thank you both. Patrick, in addition to, we do produce literature, so we do have the same thought process, and that's why there is so much great room for great roofing contractors. We are out there. Our field is the most complaints in the construction industry. It's because those complaints stem from the homeowners that shacked up with 4 guys chucking a truck. And so that does give us a bad name. And that is where we're all fighting to struggle to do the right thing for the homeowner. And all we want is that little bit of time. Our appointments are blocked out for 2 hours at a time. It's to give the homeowner that time for them to ask the questions and for us to share. Not every person is our client. We want them to be, but you know what? We leave some literature behind. We do a lot of public speaking and seminars. We're part of the HBCA in our community. Each community has a home contractors builders association. And we network with our community all over, as well as podcasting. And we're trying to put these public notices and good information that's out there backing the insurance company and saying, listen, it's not Jake at State Farm. We all love him. You know, you're calling your claims department. It's an entirely different process. But if we, the correct contractor, is going out there, grabbing photographs, properly assessing what we see as a roofing contractor, and what now is the problem for the homeowner, we feel that you definitely have a viable claim. And here's what your evidence is. Here are your photos. Has anybody ever offered these to you? Here's what this challenge is for you. Hey, you know what? I can only see that it's basically a repair. And some homeowners want to have that free roof, where all the bad contractors put that out there for us. And we tell them, here's what the downside is for it. If you don't really have a legitimate claim, you're really drawing attention to yourself, you could also get that letter because the last time I pulled your permit, it was in 2002. You're about due for a roof. So you've got a little bit of a repair there. You've got some granules in the gutters. You definitely don't qualify for meeting 25% rule. This is how big your house is. This is how small your loss is. Again, that's just educating right there at the door.
Yep.
So we do try to go every possible way we can, and we even
network with our own network of
we do
roofers,
try to refer
to each other.
business in the next community. If we're not going to be the roofer, hey, there's a guy coming down the line, might be your guy, your gal, might be your customer. And it's sticking together, and really just keeping straight to your own beliefs of, you know what, we're not going to take on every roof, and we're not. As a matter of fact, HIPAA, we learned how to deal with the insurance process itself. We have our own claims customer service department to help talk to the homeowner, help them understand how to process their paperwork, help them along, and help between insurance and contractor and homeowner bring it all together. And we haven't dealt with an AOB since it changed in July 2 years ago.
That's great.
We haven't.
Same
and
here.
just like Aggie said, we're primarily retail. We look to put a more permanent roofing solution on from the get-go, because as we're going back to this ACV problem, what's going to happen here is you're only going to get that $14,000. So what's going to happen? You're going to be subject to be buying a lesser quality roof. So whereas you don't get the CertainTeed or maybe the GAF thicker shingle, you might be going down to a Tamco. I mean, just go to Home Depot, whatever's on the sale side, right? Because that's all we've got is $14,000. We might not get the double felt that we really needed because we had a low-lying Florida roof. And we're stuck with whatever underlayment we could possibly get. So now you've got this roof here that should be lasting you as a 30-year product, is now going to last you, instead of 10, 12, 15 years, is going to last you maybe 8. And now you're again in the negative ACV value there, and it's so on and so forth, a big gigantic circle. And what's going on with the cost of inflation? I mean, it's annually up 3.5%. So compound that $20,000 roof is now $32,000. You're not getting $14,000. You're going down as the homeowner. The cost of everything else is going up. And where are they going to be left in the end?
Yeah, and I completely agree with you. One of the things I want someone to jump in about is that this law aims to also reduce the amount of time that it takes to file the claim, that you have to file the claim. It goes from 36 months to 24 months. Does anyone see that as being a positive or a negative in accordance with the law? And does anyone, both?
Personally, I think it's, as a homeowner and as a contractor, I think it's a positive move. To have a hurricane statute of limitations at 3 years, but have all other perils at 5 years, it only opens itself up for more potential fraud. Now, one of the things that we train as well is a third-degree felony to profit from an insurance claim. And I think the challenge is when we get so many people that are getting antsy because of the lousy contractors that have made it look bad for everybody else, now they're cutting deals with the contractor. How much can I make on this job? Hey, I'm going to cover your deductible, okay? All those questions and conversations lead to fraudulent activity. And this is 2021. We're being recorded right now in this conversation, but trust me, homeowners are recording it. There are news stations that are subvertly planting hidden cameras and recordings to make sure they trip somebody up. I never want to be in those conversations. My dad taught me when I was a kid, at the end of the day, I got two things, my word and my name. That's all we have. In our company, this is a family name, Jane Roofing, so very important that we protect that. Absolutely. But when it comes to that, the limitations of time, I think the longer the time where statute of limitations goes, the more it opens up for more potential fraud, because now the homeowner doesn't know the date of loss. They're expecting someone else to help educate them on when the date of loss might be or when it has occurred. And of course, insurance companies are not dumb either. They actually have photographic and aerial imagery a lot better than we have access to know what that house looked like every year for the last 20 years. Mm-hmm. On the flip side, I want to share what you had mentioned about product quality. There's a lot of manufacturers that are cheaper, mid-grade, and top quality. Mm-hmm. If the warranty, for example, for wind warranty, and some of these manufacturers will honor it up to 130 miles per hour for an architectural shingle. And I just questioned our manufacturer's rep, hey, if I have a 90 mile per hour storm come through, is that an insurance claim or is that a warranty claim? They tell me they'll honor that as a warranty as long as we meet the requirements of the manufacturer. Mm-hmm. For example, we are one of six platinum contractors with Owens Corning out of, 1,600 roofers in Central Florida. They're just a better product. We put a better product on, better system, better quality, it's gonna last longer. I know the original question was on the statute of limitations,
No,
but I
it's
think
great.
the
Make a
product,
very point.
if the manufacturers are making a better product that will last longer for the homeowner and not fail so quickly, I think we'll have a longer longevity of time of that roof's gonna be on that house before it needs to be replaced, and not have situations now where you're getting 10 years on 3-tab, 15 years on architectural, and the rest is just, it's toast. Why bother? I'm from upstate in Buffalo, New York. We don't have architectural there. We have 3-tab because we don't get high winds.
Yeah.
Down here, whole nother ballgame. So I think the
Absolutely.
standards, Florida Building Code, all those things need to take remedy of that.
Please.
Well, yeah, Florida's a whole different animal. I've been nationally, I've been all over the U.S. doing insurance. Started out with State Farm originally on there, and one of the things, it's hard because in Florida, if somebody, you get a lot of transplants that are here. So there is a mixture also of the difference of the 24 versus the 36 months, because a lot of the people that have been in, say, like upstate New York, they have no idea that they should be looking for certain things. So some of them have been here for longer, say they're more in a retired age or thing like that too. That can, going to 24 months can be a hindrance for someone who doesn't know, since we do have so many transplants. But then again, we also have the other side of the coin where there's other people that are like, oh, I'm just going to end up hoping that something ends up coming, and then I'll just try to bundle that all together and try to end up making it something more than what it was to try to get my free roof. And so you have to just be really careful as to what that balance is, and, you know, because it can go both ways.
Yep.
For the insured. And the big part of it is making sure, again, that it is working with the reputable people, the people that are really educating. That's one of the things that I love about even this group. You can tell the integrity of what you're doing, that you really are trying to educate, because at the end of the day, the homeowner does not want to be sold something.
Right.
And a lot of times people are being sold something and then they're pressured into it. And, you know, think about if you go in to buy a car, what happens? Everybody comes running to you. You immediately say, I'm just looking, because you don't want to end up being laying in bed and being like, oh, Fred ended up selling me my car, and I didn't really want to have that one. Or you want to have it where you know you were a part of the process. If you had those concerns, being able to be educated by the people, feeling comfortable with what is going to be a substantial purchase, and having it where you're able to talk to your insurance agent, having it where you're able to have it where it becomes ultimately the, you know, people, the process, and the passion that's being shown as to we are really trying to look out for you all around as the insured.
So Jimmy, how do you guys balance that at RRCA? You guys are one of the largest roofing contractors that there is in the country, okay? There are gonna be people out there that would say you are maybe even the definition of big box, you know, pushing numbers, okay? You run your office much differently. If people in Tallahassee, how do you battle against that need for numbers, but also the need to make sure, as we've said, that you are advising and educating the homeowner properly? What are you teaching your guys that's different than they think is going on?
That's a really great question. So, you know, a lot of big box companies, you know, like what's
Todd.
Todd, you know, they just want numbers. You know, when we bring somebody in,
Not
we
like
want
Todd,
it,
by the way.
huh?
Not like Todd, I'll make sure.
Oh, okay. When we bring in a new representative to come and join the company as part of the sales team, we don't just say, hey, here's some contingency agreements, go knock 1,000 doors and just file as many claims as you can. We don't do that because we know that that's going to backfire on us. It's going to put a red flag in the insurance company system on us, right? So when we educate a new representative, you know, a sales representative, to go out into the field, they have to know how to do our entire process, which is first making sure that they're in the right area, that there was a legitimate storm. That's one. The second thing is when they do get to do that inspection, they do a walk around first. They're looking for things like collateral damage from hail to the gutters, you know, screens. If the homeowner has any interior damages from water coming in from that storm, then that's another thing they got to look for. And then finally, obviously, the roof. If there's one missing shingle up there, I don't want them to assist that homeowner in filing a claim, because that to me is just going to be a waste of their time. It's going to be a waste of the homeowner's time, the insurance adjuster that comes out, and then in addition to that, it's just going to put a red flag in the system for the insurance companies on us.
That's
right? They're going to start looking at us and be like, oh, I don't like this company,
Yep.
you know, because there's a lot of companies out there that are on those lists of the insurance carriers that say, oh, as soon as they see that name roll across the board, they're like, oh, no, I'm going to push that to the side.
So can you give me an example right now from you out there and all the guys that you manage? Let's just say there was an increase in these ACD policies throughout your area, okay, and a hurricane was to go through. My opinion is that the people who would be disenfranchised the most are the people that are low income. The reason is those individuals have older roofs, and therefore they're going to have less depreciation that's going to be covered. Can you tell me about the challenges that you might face as a good roofing contractor in Central Florida if you had to go out there and these homeowners were telling you, I want a new roof, but you can't put it on because they don't have enough money in their insurance claim to even be able to afford it. How would that look following a hurricane?
You know, that I'm really passionate about this because, you know, being from Florida, you know, we get hurricanes all the time. I think about Andrew in 1992, completely leveled Homestead. Hurricane Maria, Puerto Rico, Hurricane Harvey in Houston, you know, Irma, Dorian, what it did to the Bahamas, and it could have almost done it to Florida as well, but it didn't, thankfully, right? Yes. But, you know, it still damaged, you know, the Bahamas, right? There's so many houses with old roofs, over 10 years. 90% of the roofs that we replace are older than 10 years, right? If these roofs were damaged from a hurricane, and now you got a roof that's missing a lot of shingles, water's coming in, you know, the insurance companies, you know, they're paying for the claims, but they're only paying ACV only, and the homeowner has to come out of pocket for that additional amount. That's absolutely devastating for them. I mean, they're already dealing with the COVID pandemic. A lot of people have lost jobs. They're unemployed. They're not able to make their payments of their house, health insurance, or rising costs. Mm-hmm. You know, car payments if they have it. Take their kids to school, or you know, have their kids at home, and you know they get sick and gotta take them to the doctors. All that's going to be devastating when a storm comes through. The roof is pretty much gone. Water's coming in. Now you only got an ACV only policy, and they're only getting a certain amount. Then they got to either finance it if they have the credit for it, which a lot of people these days are going through a struggle, right? Or they have to find a way to come up with the cash to be able to bring that roof up to building code for someone to build it. So I just think it would be just devastating if something like that happened. A hurricane was to come. Think about Panama City when I was up there just 2 years ago. Yep. Goodness gracious, it's like all the houses in certain areas were completely gone, and even new big large homes that were built properly were still completely damaged. Yep. So if these ACV policies were to go through, you know, statewide, it would just be devastating when that next hurricane comes, and they will come because they come every single year.
Can I piggyback that? So the challenge, you were right on the money. That's a great conversation to have about that. Here's the challenge. If the insurance company is only giving ACV payments and the homeowner cannot fully cover the cost of that repair, then guess what happens a year from now? The insurance company is going to ask them for a certification that the repairs have been made to what they prescribed. And if they can't, they're going to get dropped. So if we don't pay our premiums, the insurance companies don't have jobs. Yeah. The golden rule is supposed to be do unto others as you would have them do unto you. But it seems like the insurance companies think sometimes that he who has the gold makes the rules. That's their definition of the golden rule. So let's lose all of our clients, or let's minimize our risk based upon what they want to have. So we want to only take certain homes that are valued at so much, and let's cut everybody else out. They could be self-insured? Is that what their goal is? I mean, who knows? But if you only get an ACV coverage and they can't afford to get the full replacement, so now they're putting Band-Aids on, it's not going to meet the requirements. Insurance company's going to drop them anyway, and now what do?
And I'm going to jump on that too, sorry.
Yeah,
I like it from the insurance side of that.
Yeah.
Because what happens also on top of that, he's 100% right. In the last 6 months, I have watched like my insurance world of like 18 some years. It's a whole new ball game than anything I've ever seen before. And so I sit there and I'm like watching carriers that normally have been really strong ones on there all of a sudden being like, oh, unless the house is built in 2010 or newer, we're going to end up doing that. Oh, roofs that normally were good at 15 years, nope, they have to be sometimes within 3 years. Oh, if it's 10 years, then you have to have a whole new one. It doesn't matter if it's architectural shingles, it doesn't matter on whatever, and then you have the actual cash value. Then if you think about storms happening, I've watched this. I actually sat arguing with an adjuster because they ended up having it where there was a clay roof that had ended up being done, and those are hard in itself. Yeah, and then, it gets better. So trying to get this thing tarped in the first place was $20,000. They ended up, the carrier went out with their engineer, ended up taking the tarp off, and did not go and replace it on there. No other company would end up going through because they were so on demand because of the storm. Then the carrier was then trying to say, we're going to deny it because you don't have it tarped now from a thing that happened in May. So then I sat there literally like screaming, full on screaming at the adjuster. And then I was like, we will end up taking legal action if you're going to end up going this. It was your engineer who took this off and exposed it further, and now you're denying having it to be re-tarped on there. And it ended up, we got it moved forward, and by 1 a.m. in the morning it was re-tarped and everything, but it cost them another $20,000 that they then tried to deny the homeowners. If you don't have the people that are willing to fight for you against some of these carriers that are ending up trying to make it difficult and honestly try to kind of screw over the homeowner, homeowner
Yep.
who's trying to end up doing right, who's paying their premiums, and all of a sudden, and right now, there are so many, I feel like it's a bloodbath for homeowners right now, watching the amount of non-renewals, cancellations that
That's
are
right.
happening for people who have been doing what they're supposed to do. They're ending up having, like, they're checking all the boxes, making sure that the policy is what it needs to do. They're trying to have the full replacement on there. When you were talking about ordinance or law, there is not a single policy that I write that does not have that. If
Right.
they do not end up doing it, I actually make them sign a piece of paper saying they are refusing to have that
Good.
25% on
Right.
top of it, because I'm like, when you end up having that claim and you come screaming back to me, I have a piece of paper saying we had this conversation.
Excellent.
And that's having it where you cover yourself, because it's going to protect you guys.
right.
It's going to protect, the agency from the people that are trying to get it done right. And that's the biggest thing, is we're in a world where it isn't super friendly for the homeowner right now. And it's not right. It's not right.
In the Panhandle, the Bay Area, I served there for a year and a half, and I will tell you, I did a lot of commercial losses as well as residential, and that community basically, we're like, I didn't even have the money. I am self-insured. Almost every possible church there was, one that had that building from 1810,
Yeah.
it was their school. It's all bricks. It's a historic building. All 5 of their properties are leveled. They didn't even have the ability to insure one, even
Right.
the smallest one. And so they were just, the Gulf gets it all the time. And they were like, well, we didn't have any money. Still to this day, if you just take a drive through, you'll see blue tarp after dilapidated buildings everywhere still. And they're just now cleaning the debris, and the land is just there. It's unbuilt at all. And those people, you're talking people 70, 80 years old, they're like, I'm done. And they took their money, and they're probably headed just a little bit north into Georgia or Alabama. I don't know, but they had to take, their whatever little money they had left, not even getting any insurance money back, hoping somebody makes an offer on their land
Yeah.
and removes the rubble. Because
Right.
they had to leave their home. That's
Good
exactly
point.
what has happened. And I
point.
sat with the mayor, Mark, and our city manager, really nice guy, and he basically said, our children, our community, they're literally having babies going out to school in Tallahassee or somewhere else, and they're not even coming back. We don't even have commerce here to help us. The community didn't have the ability to insure itself. This hurricane came and wiped us out, and as we all know, Mexico Beach is completely gone, and they didn't have anything to protect themselves, and that was insurance. That's all insurance right there. That community was not insured at all, and for years had to just be like, we're just going to ride it out, and hopefully another Charlie or Opal doesn't hit us, and
Yep.
suck everything back out into the ocean. And it didn't. It actually went the other way this time, but it was just as devastating.
I was going to say, one of the misconceptions I think about this law is that by lowering the cost of premiums, you're going to drive down the cost. Okay? So in other words, if we go ahead and we say we're going to offer these ACV policies that are less expensive, then over time there's going to be competition that's going to drive into the state of Florida, and premiums are going to go down. That can be true. Okay? I want to establish that if everything goes perfectly. As soon as you have a storm that rolls through here, that is going to completely wipe out that theory. So basically what we're relying on is that there's not going to be a hurricane that hits Florida, and here's the reason why. If nothing hits, these ACV policies that are cheaper for people are greater for them. But as soon as something does, like we're all saying, and then you've got to make up that difference right now, that in many times, if you're low income, you don't have that money to make up for it, you're going to make a choice. You're going to say, well, am I going to fix my roof? Am I going to do what really needs to be necessary by putting a replacement on there like I'm supposed to? Or am I going to try to patch this thing? I'm going to try to take some money. There's going to be all sorts of stuff that can snowball if we decide to go down that route. And I think that's what politicians in Tallahassee needs to understand, is that in the short term, sure, more competition may drive down costs. But as soon as a hurricane hits and people are left without the coverage they deserve, that's when you see premiums skyrocket, because these people are not going to be able to get financing.
You might have gotten something.
Yeah, because trying to get financing for $5,000 to $6,000 on your roof right now, it ain't easy. And if you have the people flooding the market after a hurricane trying to get that, what you're doing is you're encouraging those companies who offer the financing to offer interest 18 to 23% that buries homeowners on a $5,000 to $6,000 difference in their roof. That's my concern about this. Go ahead.
We all know that in Tallahassee, everything is negotiation. each side is on their opposite corners and trying to find something in the middle. You just touched something that might be a solution as you guys are going to Tallahassee trying to fight this. But I would say maybe on cat losses is where when you already have a 2% to 5% deductible, maybe that's not the place to have an ACV. Maybe the ACV doesn't apply to cat losses, maybe only on other perils. Because I can see someone that has hail damage and someone looking around saying, is my roof going to leak really from hail damage? Probably not. Probably not going to have issues with hail damage that's going to cause a leak that cause me to have those issues. But I can definitely see a cat loss. So yeah, cat loss, I think they would have almost like the ACV would not apply. It would revert to an RCV if that was the challenge there. Number two, I'm trying to peek behind the curtain here with the insurance carriers and what they might be thinking. And something else that comes up to, it's always the money, it's always control, is reinsurance. In order to open up an insurance carrier in Florida up a few years ago, you needed to have, I think it was $35 million in liquid assets in order to open up as what they call a takeout company. Because Citizens cannot, of course, hold the risk. So these companies are coming in, taking that over and stopping up. So they're probably, let's raise the premium so we can actually cover our reinsurance costs, but at the stake of the homeowner, which is challenging. We've had insurance companies go bankrupt in Florida last year. We're all dealing with Florida Guarantee, trying to make those things change. It's a challenge. It's definitely a challenge. They're starting to pay that. And we're paying for it. Our taxpayer dollars are paying for those claims where they end up going to Florida Guarantee. But I'm wondering if the premium situation, you're dealing with reinsurance and how they're trying to fund that, as well as flipping that when it comes to cat losses, that might be onto something you guys can bring up.
I think that is onto something, if you want to know the truth. Because I think what everyone with insurance companies are saying, hey, we're losing our butt, what I mean, is what they're saying, which we can argue whether they are or they're not. But perhaps instead of saying, after a devastating loss, you're now going to have to go ahead and foot the bill, perhaps saying, hey, listen, you know what, you've had damage that has been concurring over time, the payroll's lost, maybe that's a better time for an ACV policy. And those are the kind of things that I think Tallahassee's missing out on, is that after a huge hurricane is not the time when you want to burden homeowners with a $6,000 fee, because they went with a cheaper policy and they just were trying to make ends meet, like so many people are right now. I think you guys gonna say something about that, or I don't know if you guys are grabbing me.
I mean, we have multiple levels of financing. We've been established for a long time, so we've actually helped people who never could afford a roof make it possibly happen.
Yeah, over the years that has been true. They might even consider at that time, you know what, I don't want to be in a shingle position again. I think now is the time to get that metal roof that I need due to what happens to us here on the coastline. And they take the deductible, which they are responsible for, but they're not ready to chunk out $5,000, and they go, okay, here's another X amount for my roof, put it together. I've got an interest rate that's low enough. At this time, that is available. We don't lend the money. These are people that, are certified lenders. But what happens when there's an influx of that? Like you said, what happens with the people who couldn't afford that homeowner's insurance that was already left with I need something, I'm going to take an ACV. Your local agent's like, you can't go without, which is better than nothing. And so there you go. Then they're like, oh my gosh, I don't have the $5,000 to put out. So, their credit rating is already low. And yep, there they are. They're stuck with the 18% versus a 7.99
And the rates are going to go up because if there's an influx. And
with everything.
What I want to talk to you, the last portion of this roundtable, what I want to talk about is the third portion of this law, okay? The third portion, what it does is it makes it more difficult to file suit for homeowners against the insurance carrier after a denial. The way that it does that is it uses a multiplier effect, and it means that for the attorney that you use, they may not receive reasonable attorney fees, all right? It makes it more difficult for that attorney to take the case on contingency for the homeowner, all right? Because right now what happens for a lot of companies is that if they do deny the case, we do push litigation forward if there is a viable case to have it happen. So Jimmy, what I want to talk about with you is, have you seen cases that were originally denied that deserved an approval that were moved into an approval status? And how is that process like for RC? How do you look at a roof and decide, are we going to move forward with litigation or are we going to keep it right now? Because the proponents of this law are saying that there's too much fraudulent litigation coming through. I don't think that's every roofing company though.
That's correct. You got the microphone all the way over there. With regards to that, see, that's a really great question. So whenever we go out to a property, we see that there's enough damage to warrant that replacement of that roof. When that insurance company goes ahead and denies that roof, we don't immediately tell the homeowner, hey, you know what, let's go ahead and sue them.
Good point.
We do a little
Good.
bit of a different process. We try to do a denial process. We get back on the roof, the representative, and they go and look at every single slope. They mark every, let's call it a hailstorm, right? They mark every single hail hit that's a legit hail hit, not blistering, not wear and tear, real hail, right? Something that's soft to the touch that you can detect that that's what it is. They go on every slope. They mark that circle, and then they mark it with a 1, a 2, a 3. How many hits? And even if it's like 100 hits on one slope, then we go to the next slope and to the next slope. We find every little bit of collateral on the roof, gutters, siding, screen, anything. If the homeowner has any photos or videos or any testimonial when that storm happened, and a lot of them do, then we get that information as well. We then go ahead and put that together in an email. We put those photos together, right? We send that to the insurance carrier, to the desk adjuster, the guy or lady that lady or the man that makes the decisions, right? And we try to talk to them. Say, hey, look, we understand that you guys denied this claim originally. However, based on a second inspection that we just did, we think that the homeowner deserves a re-inspection. Is this something that we can do? And a lot of times, Patrick, if that desk adjuster, if you talk to them, and you don't have to argue with them, right, you don't have to fight with them, you just got to communicate with them and show them the facts. You know how they say a picture is worth 1,000 words? Well, if you got 100 pictures, it's 100,000 words, right? Yeah. You don't have to say a whole lot. You just have to try to, come to an agreement with them. A lot of times, they'll send out a second adjuster from a different firm or the same firm, not usually the same adjuster, and at that point, we go ahead and we show them everything.
And that's the legal way.
Yep.
That's the proper way. According to our
Is that the way HIPAA does it as well?
And that's the right way.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then a lot of times, that desk adjuster, they look over the information, our report, the field adjuster's report, and about 80% of the time, 80%, not all the time, the desk adjuster has written a full scope for replacement with a first ACV check, obviously, that comes to the homeowner. And when you tell your homeowner, hey, look, we actually turned this around for you, their face lights up because they know that they need a roof. They know that a storm happened. And when you're able to turn that around, not only are you doing right by the homeowner, which is the most important piece in this entire puzzle, because at the end of the day, without them, none of us would have a job, right? Then you feel good that you were able to help that homeowner the right way. Now, there are situations where, yes, there is litigation involved because it might be a large loss, might be a tile roof like the one you have in the background. Those are a little bit more difficult. At that point, we always advise the homeowner, hey, look, if you want to go with it, if you want to go for that, we can go ahead and pursue litigation. And we have the best attorneys in the state of Florida when it comes to this. But a lot of the times, I tell my guys, don't go straight to litigation. Right. Try to work it around with the desk adjuster first.
Yeah, because if you end up going to litigation too soon without having it, where you go and recircle again, you're adding on so much extra time. Everything that's going to be on there, then you're going to have people literally like breathing down your neck. The homeowner's going to be more stressed. They're going to be angry at you. They're going to be mad at the insurance agency. They're going to be mad at the insurance carrier. Then all of a sudden they're also mad at the attorney because everybody's not making it happen versus if you just had that conversation. If you have it where you show everything, you dot your I's, cross your T's, they will end up having it where they will reassess that.
Well, because the insurance company's on the defensive immediately when you go to litigation first, because our policies are contracts. Yeah. We sign it when we sign up for insurance as a contract with that carrier, with that policy. In the policy tells us the 4-step process. First, second, mediation, litigation. We got to do it the right way so that they see we're playing by the rules. That's our contract. Huge difference. Now, I will tell you one thing that might be something else to bring up is I have a claim right now in litigation where both times when I did the first and the second adjustment, the different adjuster come out independent, and both times were denied, but they would refuse to do a brittle test. I asked the adjuster, said, are you going to do a brittle test on this roof? No. I've learned in sales, you guys open-ended questions. Why are you not doing a brittle test on this roof? His exact words. Both times, two different adjusters, same words. I was specifically instructed not to do a brittle test on this house.
Interesting.
So I go back to the desk adjuster and with the homeowner, of course, on a 3-way call, and they're like, why would they say that? We don't have any communication with the field adjusters. Well, they're not getting it from, watching TV. Someone's instructing them what to do and what not to do in order to get that claim approved or denied. So don't tell me that no one's talking to these people.
Absolutely. What about from the insurance perspective?
Oh, 100%. I already know that there is communication that happens between those. So if they're saying that they aren't, it does happen. So the whole process is just it's convoluted, like, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And so again, it's having it where we have to be upfront, where we've got the contracts, we have the different steps that have to be done. And again, like I said, it again comes down to having it where you really care about the homeowner and wanting to do right by them. And when you end up having that, everything will fall into place the way it's supposed to end up being.
So what I want to do is I want to kind of recap some of the thoughts that we've had here today, and then allow each in person to go ahead and just kind of say a little bit about what they think about the law and where they think it could be better, or some of the damages or some of the concerns they may have to kind of end today. Here's the things that I've taken away from our talk today. First was pushing numbers for roofing contractors. One of the dangerous things that we see in our industry is when you push those high numbers, these high volumes that we have, it makes it very difficult for the sales rep out there to want to do the right thing. Secondary to that, communication. Tallahassee needs to know that there are good roofing contractors, insurance agents out there that are communicating with one another and doing things the right way. Third to that, what I think this bill sort of does but doesn't go far enough with is we set a separate piece of paper attached to this bill or attached in the ACV policy, clearly explaining to the homeowner what they are signing, because we need homeowners to be aware of what they are signing if they ever were to get involved with a policy like this. Number 4, I think there are policies that could be available that are not being offered that take care of the homeowner after a natural disaster, but maybe we look at the ACV side for the other perils that we have there. There could be a solution right there. We don't move directly to litigation. Common myth that people have right now is that we move directly to litigation. Roofing contractors are trying to sue insurance companies. That is not the case.
That's correct.
There are good roofing contractors out there. They're sitting here today that are going out there for secondary inspections. They're training their guys. They're trying to avoid litigation for insurance companies who will do things the right way. And that leads to the last point. This law tries to address premiums, okay, and tries to address what homeowners are going to have to foot the bill for. If you're going to do that, you have to turn inward as an insurance company and as an industry and say, what could we be doing differently? As we said, there are insurance adjusters out there not willing, not capable, not trained enough to do the inspections that are necessary so that the homeowner can get the right result. We see it out there. So insurance companies must police themselves as well as roofing contractors as we police ourselves. Those are really the takeaways that I think that we can help further this conversation into a better law than SB-76. With that in mind, I kind of want to take it over for each person to kind of just talk a little bit about their final thoughts about the law and where we go moving forward. I'll start with Hippo Roofing.
Start?
Well, I think at the end of the day, there's going to be legislation, whether we like it or not. Maybe there come to some kind of middle ground, whether the deductibles go up or the premiums get adjusted. The education part is big, but I think we'll do an extra push on our concierge service this year moving forward into the hurricane season, right?
Exactly. So my biggest thing is prepare, and then you can respond and recover correctly. With prepare is our concierge attitude to our services. We always educate. Free inspection. Do you happen to know what's going on with your roof? Countless podcasts of, do you know what's going on? And as we do these free inspections, we are creating a new relationship with our homeowners in our community. We're talking about roofing options. They have a sense of understanding about the roof and knowledge, knowing that there are options out there that could help actually lower their homeowners insurance by having re-nailed up to code, secondary water barriers, and new wind mitigation reports. So we're telling them, if you have an inefficient roof right now, have you ever thought about getting an efficient roof? So on that side is we begin this relationship and we have these photographs and we give these free roof inspections. They now have a sense of trust with us. When it does come time, they're in that position, a storm happens to come, or their community has a little tornado or a little hailstorm or microburst, they can call us as a roofer because they have a relationship with us, and we can now communicate how the process goes. Hey, you just have a little bit of repair, or hey, guess what? By the way, you actually have real storm damage. It's an unnamed storm, but guess what? Today's your lucky day, you have damage. And then we begin to communicate with that process. So, you know, for Hippo, we are always thinking on that forward-thinking side. So we hope that as this new bill is coming our way, maybe ACV is going to have to be, like what we said, part of that process. And when a big hurricane storm comes, its RCV comes into effect. I don't know. And as Aggie said, something is coming down the pipe. And I think limiting attorneys' fees when these homeowners really need the proper representation, because insurance companies at the end of the day have billions of dollars and a room twice this size full of attorneys protecting them and raising those rates and those numbers. And that's why they're up 35% as we started at the beginning of this meeting. So homeowners need that representation through and through, all the way to the end. And I think that is really going to be a downfall for them. And limiting the time to file, although it's a great point, and we're always going to have those people looking for that free aspect and that free whatever, because I paid my premiums for 38 years and I deserve to have 2 roofs over. We're just going to have to stick to our guns and be continuously honest roofing contractors and pave the right way for these people and stay true to our word. So we've got a lot on our plate to come.
Yeah, good. Jim?
You know, as myself as a representative of our RCA, and you know, we have a lot of guys that work with our company, we don't want all of our claims to go to litigation, because you know what that does? That just prolongs the process for that homeowner to get a roof and for ourselves to be able to continue to build these roofs, right? That's why I mentioned that re-inspection process. Maybe educate Tallahassee on what the real good roofing contractors are doing, that we try to do those re-inspections, and we don't immediately just push litigation right down the customer's throat. We just try to go ahead and, you know, do that re-inspection process, see if we can turn it around. If it's a tile roof, get a tile off the roof, do an ITIL report, say that it's discontinued, and, you know, try to work around that process. I think what Mr. Tate was talking about with his presentation, I really like that option of giving homeowners, hey, look, this is an RCV policy, this is what you're going to pay. This is an ACV policy, and this is what you're going to pay. And these are the pros and cons of this one, and pros and cons of this one. I think that the homeowner should get the choice. No legal body or legislation should be able to choose for them, and let the people decide.
Right.
That's what this country is built on as well.
It's a great point. We don't need another law to be able to do that.
Correct.
Maybe from the insurance side.
Okay, so one of the things that I really took away from even in this conversation more is also having it where we have to look at who does things right and who cuts corners. Having it where they really need to look at, you know, the businesses, the agencies, the carriers, even on the carrier side, there's a lot of them that they are cutting corners where when they're taking more away from the homeowner and the way that it's supposed to be protected, but taking the premiums and then also having the increases, whether it be 9% to 30% on there. So we really want to be, you know, looking at how they end up doing that. Another thing that's really huge that we need to remember is to be educating. No matter what, have those conversations. Sometimes, you know, it's much better to face things head on and say, this is what we're dealing with, good, bad, ugly. This is what we have to deal with. If you sit there and try to give a fluff piece, people aren't going to end up responding to that versus having the real hard truth. I'm here to tell you the truth about what's going on. You're going to end up having a lot more respect on that. And another thing that I kind of think about, you know, and it's kind of a stupid little saying, but, you know, if you want to go fast, you go alone. But if you want to go far, you go together.
Right.
It's having it where you really have it where you surround yourself with the people and the businesses that are going in the direction where you are going to make a difference, where you're going to protect both your companies and also the homeowners.
You know, John Maxwell gets credit for saying it, but it was actually Teddy Roosevelt said it first. But people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, and that really has to be what we are about in our business. A couple of notes I want to make as we conclude for this bill hearing. And we didn't talk about it yet today, but a lot of insurance carriers are really going to right to repair, so they can actually have control over that repair process. And 2 of them now have their own roofing contracting companies in-house. They're eliminating that competition.
I agree.
So that's something that needs to be addressed. But everything you mentioned today was based upon limits, and of course it's all about control. Limits the roof age. I think if the manufacturer provides a better product that meets the Miami-Dade standards, that's going to last longer, we need to actually follow those standards and not allow cheap stuff to come into our marketplace and flood the market that doesn't meet the standards of Miami-Dade. I think having a high-quality roof on there instead of the bargain basement, the roof will last longer. And of course, if there's a roofing contractor or someone that did a roof without a permit and all this kind of stuff that we find that should never pass, you know, if there's no permit pulled, I wonder if that would be a disclaimer or an exclusion for having a claim approved because it was never permitted in the first place. That probably would be a challenge for that as well. Number 2, when it comes to attorney's fees, we didn't talk about it, and a lot of people are in this business, and there's a right place for a public adjuster who's also get lumped into the attorney's fees process. There's a right place for that. But I think that's the challenge as well. You just really take into these insurance companies, for that extra dollar. And it's not about the homeowner, it's about the litigation fees that they're trying to collect, especially attorneys, when they put them on the clock. Now it's just hourly billable hours rather than based on the job. And then, of course, the third one is statute of limitations. I can see, now that you mentioned it earlier, flipping my train of thought as originally I had spoke, having a longer statute of limitations on a cat loss, because there's so much damage, you're going to need a lot longer sometimes to deal with those process. But on a non-hurricane or non-cat, going with the lower peril, having a shorter time frame.
Good point.
You don't need 5 years on a hailstorm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I could say, if we're going to do a give and take in Tallahassee, hey, we'll lower the statute of limitations on non-peril, but I need a little bit longer on perilous, because there's so much work, too much to be done in order to sort out that process.
I think that's a really good compromise right there. I think it's a great point. I am done. I'm going to turn it over to Winston as we began. He is going to close, and we'll be good to go.
The very first thing, and I've kind of screened this from the mountaintop, and I've never met any of you, and one of the things that I was explaining, I haven't advertised in 4 years. So I worked at two of the biggest firms in the state. I worked with Harvey at Cohen Law, and I worked with Vargas. Those are two of the top 5 firms in the state. I opened my own shop 4 years ago. And since I've opened my own shop, I've only preached, don't go straight into litigation.
That's right.
Only preached it, right? For a number of reasons. You get paid, you're a business. You're registered as a for-profit business. Get paid if you can get paid. Get paid as fast as you possibly can get paid, and use us as a last resort. So I want to make it very clear what our approach is that we are a last resort after you've tried everything you possibly can to get paid. And I know there's a ton of different firms out there, and there's a ton of different approaches. We don't do concurrent representation. We don't come to us when there's a dispute. The second thing is, if we do come on early, if we do come on pre-suit, we take 0. That's our commitment to homeowners. We take 0. So that means something gets complicated, a homeowner needs a representation at an EUO, we do that for free. Okay, so that's another way that we differentiate ourselves. 0 pre-suit. But of course, there are times that you do need representation. I think of 3 denials that come to mind that people may not pick up on. I got a denial from Security First that said the homeowner didn't provide us with a cause of loss. We reviewed the damage, but the homeowner didn't provide us with a cause of loss, therefore we're denying this claim. Well, what's the problem with that? The homeowner does not have an obligation to provide a cause of loss. They need to make their home available for inspection. They need to cooperate with the investigation. But again, there's a sophisticated party and there's an unsophisticated party. And the legislature said the sophisticated party has to find the cause of loss. So that's just something that, you may look at this and say, hey, we didn't do our job. We didn't find it, but that's not your job. So, this is the first time, again, we don't do advertising. We may start. This is an incredible opportunity to meet you. I'm happy to have you at our firm. Of course, I'm familiar. Everyone uses firms. We just ask for an opportunity. If you send out 100 claims, send us 20. And then compare apples to apples and say, hey, how fast did these get done? How much client communication happened? We're right in that sweet spot where we have experienced attorneys. We're still hungry. We're still growing. So if businesses go through different phases, and we're in that growth phase where we're really, really working hard. And so I've seen, I was at these firms in 2010. I know what they were like then. I know what they're like now. And again, I'm not asking anyone to change their patterns. I'm just asking for a shot. I'm asking for an opportunity. I'm asking to be kind of put in the mix. Again, we have a great team. And so just 2 other things that I want to show you. And again, we're going to kind of do a little bit more work, but I try to take a minimalistic approach. So I say, we give you 3 things to do. Schedule an appointment. You don't have to tell a homeowner, hey, you have a complex tile roof, you have a question. You don't have to say, call Winston Tate, call his office, try to schedule an appointment. They can schedule directly onto my Outlook with 1 click. So that's the first service that we provide. I like to think everyone thinks of this service as a lawsuit. The very first service we provide is information, right? Because if we're going into litigation and we're in litigation for 8 months, I want to set the correct expectation at the beginning, okay? I have my experience on there, every firm that I've worked on, cases that I've made law on in the state. And then again, we do make it convenient. If someone says, hey, Winston's gotten 6 roofs put on in my community, I want to use them, we do make it convenient for people to sign up directly. There's 2 things that I wanted to show you on this sign up. One is that in 2 places, I make it very clear in the very first paragraph, no recovery, no fee, because that's the number one question. A lot of people say, is this possible? Is this real that you can get an attorney? Very first paragraph. Second paragraph, no recovery, no fee. And most importantly, and I was talking to Jimmy about this, is that there are some firms that a roofing company will refer the homeowner, and then there'll be a fight to get on the check. So we eliminate that. For a homeowner to sign up with us, they have to sign a conflict waiver and the ability that there's no secrets between us. So when the authority comes, when we get a case settled, we're able to call a roofing company and say, hey, this is what's on the table. Then we circle back to the homeowner and say, they can do it, they can't do it. Ultimately, it's the homeowner's decision, but you're on that check and you're in that conversation, right? This is the difference. So I don't want to belabor the point, but we're in a point where we have the intellectual mind. We have someone who does our commercial litigation and federal litigation, who worked at Morgan and Cohen. He's been practicing for 20 years. So if you come to us with a commercial claim, it's not going to someone who's been practicing for 2 years, right? We also have the foresight to hire. We represent dozens of roofers and contractors, and no one has ever, at any of these first-party firms, ever hired a construction lawyer. We went out and backed up the Brinks truck for a partner at one of the biggest construction litigation firms. So when you go to another firm and you say, hey, I have a construction defect, someone's potentially trying to sue me, I have a subcontractor disagreement, I have a lien question, they're never going to be able to answer that question competently.
Right.
Because all they do is sue insurance companies. So and he's available for any questions. You can look at his background. His background's impeccable. He's represented everyone in the entire state. Ask him questions about his construction litigation background and what a value that can potentially be to any of your firms. Because everyone says, hey, we don't have any construction defect issues. We put on great roofs. We don't put on leaky roofs. But sometimes homeowners complain for no reason. And guess what? You do have to provide your general liability when they ask for it, because that's the law. But if you have someone who's going to tell you on day one, things, obviously, are you guys familiar with the subcontractor agreements and getting yourself listed as an additional assured on your subs? Okay, so if you don't know about that, 100% you have to speak with Brett, because it'll protect you and it'll shield you from liability and your rates going up. So those are some of the closing things, is that I agree 100%. There's not one person in this room who believes, why do I not want to take a case early? Because everyone's going to question, hey, we could have done it without him. We could have gotten paid without him. Now it's slower. Well, and another thing, we're actually pretty fast, but that's a separate issue. So I want you to really think about that. If you do have someone in need, to put us in the conversation. I've given you some cards. I've given a letter as required by the Florida Bar that says, hey, there's 100,000 attorneys in the state. Winston Tate is one of them.
Which are you paid by the carrier, or are you paid through the client?
I'm paid by the carrier.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
That's
So,
right.
yeah, right. Yeah. So that's us. Brett is here for you. We have a full staff. Again, we try to hire well. We just hired a Harvard Law grad, which is really, spectacular. We hired another construction litigation attorney, Sharon Freeman, who's coming over. So we try to give you balanced representation, but 100% we don't want to insert ourselves into your claim early. And if for some reason you do want us in early, we take zero pre-suit, which is one of the most unique things, I think, in the state. So do you guys have any questions for me, for Brett? You should have questions for Brett. If you have a construction company, you want your subcontractor agreement reviewed, you want your service agreement reviewed, you want to know how to respond when a homeowner, threatens you, right? We represent contractors that we did nothing wrong. Someone's saying, hey, they're suing us for 100,000 because they're saying the leaky roof, someone slipped on the leaky roof. We advise on
You
that.
look into new construction.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. So that's what we have. Any questions? I think we're done. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Put us in the game.